This is a very well-known poem by W.B. Yeats. An Irish airman foresees his death. It was written during the war and then later published in 1919 in The Wild Swans at Coole. Probably Yeats did not want to publish it during the war because it could have been seen as insensitive. So let's begin by reading the poem. An Irish airman foresees his death. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. Those that I fight, I do not hate. Those that I guard, I do not love. My country is Kiltartan Cross. My countrymen Kiltartan's poor. No likely end could bring them loss, or leave them happier than before. Nor law nor duty bade me fight, nor public men nor cheering crowds. A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. I balanced all, brought all to mind. The years to come seemed waste of breath, a waste of breath the years behind, in balance with this life, this death. The poem is a very famous one, and let me say something about the structure to begin with, which is very simple. It's iambic meter, iambic tetrameter, 8 syllables in every line. There are 16 lines, and it's made up of 4 quatrains, 16 lines. A quatrain, a group of 4 lines, which are connected, in this case connected with an A-B rhyme scheme, which runs throughout the poem. It's iambic, which as we know from previous examinations of poems, is metrical units of unstressed, stressed syllables. In this case, there are 4 iambic feet in every line. Every foot is 1 unstressed and 1 stressed syllable. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. It's a very suitable meter for a reflective, kind of ruminative point of view, which is what this poem is all about. Clearly, the speaker is not W.B. Yeats. He has created a persona here, a character, a young man from Ireland fighting in the First World War as an aviator for the British. It's often said that the character, the persona, is based on Major Robert Gregory, who was a friend of Yeats's. There is a kind of dichotomy in the poem between the quiet certainty, the quiet sense of destiny, and the situation, let's say, of the writer. Let's read the first stanza. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. Those that I fight, I do not hate. Those that I guard, I do not love. So he knows that he is going to die in this battle. He has a sense of destiny about it. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. But he tells us that the people who he's fighting, he doesn't hate. That's the Germans. And the ones he's guarding, he doesn't love, the British. Well, we can take it for granted that Irishmen at this time mostly didn't love the British. They were struggling for their independence, which would come a few years later, 1922 for most of them. And there must have been a sense for those who went out to fight for the British that British were oppressors themselves, and they certainly didn't love the British any more than they would hate the Germans. So, yeah, there is that ambiguity, that mixture of feelings here. An Irishman, a part of the British Empire at this time, fighting for the British, yet himself involved probably in a struggle for independence at home from the British. So it might not be surprising then that he doesn't hate the Germans or love the people he is guarding. What is surprising is a kind of quiet acceptance in the poem, which the iambic meter is particularly appropriate at conveying, particularly suitable for conveying. So let's read a bit more and get a bit more information about it. So, where is he from? My country is Kiltartan Cross. My countrymen Kiltartan's poor. No likely end could bring them loss, or leave them happier than before. So he's from Ireland, but more specifically, he's from Kiltartan Cross. He doesn't say he is Irish particularly. He says he is from Kiltartan Cross, a small village in Galway, and his countrymen is Kiltartan's poor, and no likely end could bring them loss or leave them happier than before. Doesn't make any difference what happens if the Germans win or the British win. Not much will change for the place he comes from. So there is that sense of hopelessness, perhaps. Nothing will change for the people of Kiltartan Cross, whatever happens. So why did he fight? Why is he fighting then if nothing will change for the place he comes from, and he doesn't hate the Germans and he doesn't love the British? So why is he fighting? He goes on to give other examples of the reasons people might think he is fighting that are not true. Nor law nor duty bade me fight, nor public men nor cheering crowds. A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. So he's not fighting because of the law, he's not fighting because of a sense of duty, he's not fighting because public men told him he ought to go and fight, he's not fighting because cheering crowds said he would be a hero if he went to fight. None of these are the reasons why he's there. He's there because a lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. It's very interesting, the word delight. So he is happy to be there, more than happy. He is delighted. This is a time when flying machines were very unreliable, but at the same time it's the beginning of aviation. So for the first time, men could fly in the sky like birds and through the clouds, and there is a sense that the writer comes from a background full of sadness and depression, and this sense of peace that he can know by flying in the air is something that is tremendous to him, very precious to him, something he's never known before, can give him a certain sense of peace. Perhaps he's never known peace before, with all the politics and the fighting. So it was the lonely impulse of delight that drove to the fighting, the tumult in the clouds. Again, I repeat, he wants to be there for this reason. And then I balanced all, brought all to mind. The years to come seemed a waste of breath, or waste of breath the years behind. balance with this life, this death, this death. There is nothing for him at home, nothing in Kiltartan Cross, nothing for him to live for, really. Perhaps we don't know what his background is, we're not told. That's part of the charm of the poem, but we can guess that he comes from a very poor place in Ireland where life is extremely difficult and based on struggle and perhaps hatred for the British, the struggle for the independence, and possibility of getting away from all this, to not to fight for the British or not to kill Germans, but simply to be in the clouds at a time when it was new. Nobody had really been flying in the clouds before. The possibility of getting out, getting away from the earth, or getting away from everything into the clouds, and being a part of something entirely new could give him a sense of peace that he had never known before. I balanced all, brought all to mind. The years to come seemed a waste of breath, so perhaps it would all just be the same as in the past, just poverty and struggle and conflict, and certainly a waste of breath the years behind. So why not just enjoy this moment in the clouds above the earth and accept his fate in balance with this life, this death, a waste of breath the years behind, in balance with this life, this death. So finally he's found a single moment that he can believe in, a beauty, a peace flying in the skies above, and he can get away from all the problems of his past, and he knows that he will die, his time has come, but it seems to be an appropriate death, a suitable death for him, one that he is ready to accept, and a beautiful death in a certain way, because it's happening in the blue sky far above the earth, and gives him a sense of peace that he's never known before. So Yeats here is kind of using the Irish situation as a background to a poem about the First World War. So the sense of hopelessness and conflict, poverty that existed in Ireland at this time, and the conflict that Irish people might feel fighting for the British. That's all there in the background, and suggested as a reason why somebody might actually be glad to die, just to get away from all these horrible things happening at home, in a moment of pure delight, in when aviation has given us a chance to escape the earth and get up among the clouds and contemplate the beauty of the planet. It's a moving poem. It's very moving, the idea that someone who isn't really interested in fighting or for his country, or doesn't hate the people he's in conflict against, the idea that someone like that is there and ready to die is a strange one to us. We feel that most people who fight in a war should should have strong opinions one way or another. But here is someone without any strong opinions, ready to die, but just because he feels that it's the right time for him to die and the right place for him to die, surrounded by the skies and the clouds. And yeah, it leaves so many questions for us. Who is he? What's his background? Why is he fighting for the British? Couldn't he find a better way to end his life if that's what he wanted to do? But really, at the root of it all, there is the sense of the sense of conflict that came from the Irish situation, and of course there's acceptance too. But it's a beautiful poem, and someone reading it could not really ignore the references to the situation in Ireland, and that's probably why Yeats kept it back, because he knew that to some extent and in a certain way it was a political poem. Yeah, so a very beautiful poem, and rightly famous. An Irish airman foresees his death.